Hello everybody and welcome back to Law and Court Cases, and in today's video I'll be talking about the killer whose need to be seen eventually led to his capture. He killed 10 people over a span of 3 decades. He was so self-obsessed that he even gave himself his own moniker that described his terrible method of killing his victims: bind, torture, kill. Today I am talking about Dennis Rader, aka BTK. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Dennis Lynn Rader was born in Pittsburgh, Kansas on March 9, 1945, to bookkeeper Dorothea May Rader and Kansas gas service worker William Elvin Rader. He was the eldest of 4 sons. Rader grew up in Wichita. Both parents worked long hours and paid little attention to their children at home. Rader later described feeling ignored by his mother in particular and resented her for it. From a young age, Rader harbored sadistic sexual fantasies, specifically about trapping and torturing helpless women. He also exhibited pseudo-sadism by torturing, killing and hanging small animals. He acted out sexual fantasies by being a peeping Tom and watching people undress and in sexual acts, and was also into auto-asphyxiation, as well as cross-dressing. He often spied on female neighbours whilst dressed in women's clothing, including women's underwear that he had stolen. Years later, during his cooling-off periods, Rader took pictures of himself wearing women's clothing and in female masks while bound. He later admitted that he was pretending to be his victims as part of a sexual fantasy. However, despite this, Rader kept his sexual proclivities well hidden, as he was widely regarded in his community as normal, polite and well-mannered. After graduating from Wichita Heights High School, Rader attended Kansas Wesleyan University. He received only mediocre grades and dropped out after only 1 year. He then went on to serve in the United States Air Force from 1966 to 1970. Upon his discharge, he moved to Park City, a suburb in Wichita, where he worked as a meat department of an IGA supermarket where his mother was a bookkeeper. Rader married Paula Dietz on May 22, 1971. They had 2 children, Kerry and Brian. He attended Butler Community College in El Dorado, earning an associate's degree in electronic engineering technology in 1973. He then enrolled at Wichita State University, graduated in 1979 with a Bachelor of Science degree, majoring in Administration of Justice. Rader initially worked as an assembler for the Coleman Company, an outdoor supply company. He then worked at the Wichita-based office of the ADT Security Service from 1974 to 1988, where he installed security alarms as part of his job, in many cases from homeowners concerned about the BTK killings. In May 1991, Rader became a dog catcher and compliance officer in Park City. In this position, neighbours recalled him being sometimes overzealous and extremely strict, as well as taking special pleasure in bullying and harassing single women. One neighbour complained that Rader killed her dog for no reason. Rader was a member of the Christ Lutheran Church in Wichita and had been elected president of the church council. He was also a Cub Scout leader. On January 15th of 1974, 4 members of the Ontario family were murdered. The victims were Joseph Ontario Sr., 38, Julia Maria Julie Ontario, 33, Joseph Joey Ontario II, 9, and Josephine Josie Ontario, 11. Their bodies were discovered by the family's 3 eldest children who had been at school at the time of the killings. After his 2005 arrest, Rader confessed to the killings of the Ontario family. Rader claimed that he first targeted the family who months prior to their murders when he spotted Julie leaving to take her children to school and followed them. On the morning of January 15th, Rader cut the phone lines and entered the Ontario residence when Joey opened the back door for the family dog. Once inside, Rader told the Ontario family that he was a wanted man in California before he ordered them to lie on the living room floor at gunpoint. He then led the family into a bedroom and tied them up with rope that he had prepared. Joseph and Joey were on the floor, while Julie and Josie were on the bed. The wrists and feet of Joseph and Julie were restrained. Joseph's head was covered by a plastic bag, which Rader had secured with ropes. But after he chewed a hole in the bag, another bag was tightened over his head, causing Joseph to slowly suffocate to death. Rader attempted to strangle Julie, but according to Rader, Mrs. Ontario woke back up. She was pretty upset with what was going on. She asked me to save her son, so I actually had taken the bag off. She screamed, "You killed my boy, you killed my boy." And she actually said, "God have mercy on your soul." And I put her down permanently. Rader strangled her to death with a rope. While both parents were dead, Rader then also placed another bag with 2 t-shirts and another bag over it on Joey's head and watched as he thrashed around for a while before suffocating. Afterwards, Rader led Josie down to the basement where he hanged her with a noose from a pipe. Police later found Rader's semen near her partially clothed body. Rader then eventually wrote a letter that he stashed inside an engineering book in the Wichita Public Library on October 1974, describing in detail the killings of the Otero family. On April 4th of 1974, Rader broke into the Wichita home of 21-year-old Catherine Doreen Bright through her screen door, but was taken back to discover her 19-year-old brother Kevin Bright was also present in the property. He transported Catherine to another bedroom and tied her down after forcing Kevin, who had been held at gunpoint, to restrain his sister with rope that Rader had brought with him. Rader attempted to strangle Catherine to death before stabbing her 3 times in the back and lower abdomen with a knife when she was struggling too much. Kevin was also strangled and shot in the head, but miraculously survived by fighting death and later escaped. On March 17th of 1977, 25-year-old Shirley Ruth Relford was found dead in her home in Wichita. Rader pursued Relford by locating her by following her 5-year-old son to her home. Apparently Relford had not been feeling well, so she sent her son out to get some soup. Rader entered their property and pulled a handgun out from under his jacket, frightening the family. After tying up her 3 children and locking them in the bathroom, Rader took Relford to the back bedroom. Rader had Shirley restrained while she vomited before tying her legs to the bedpost. He then strangled her with rope after placing a plastic bag over her head whilst her children screamed and banged down the hallway. Similar to the Ontario murders, Rader intended to murder Relford's children, although they were ultimately able to escape before he could do so. When Rader noticed 25-year-old Nancy Jo Fox going into her home in Wichita, he marked her as a potential victim and began stalking her. On December 8th of 1977, Rader knocked at her door. When nobody answered, he cut the phone lines before breaking in and waiting for Fox in her kitchen. Rader would go on to describe Fox's murder as perfect. Although she gave me a lot of verbal static, she cooperated. She didn't fight me. I had complete control of her, and that's why it was one of the more enjoyable killings, as I call them. Rader killed Fox by strangling her with his belt on her bed. Before she died, Rader told her that he was responsible for the prior Ontario murders. The following day, Rader called police from a phone booth, telling them they would find Fox's body at her home. In early 1978, Rader sent another letter to television station KAKE in Wichita, claiming responsibility for the murders of the Oteros, Bright, Vian Relford and Fox. He suggested many possible names for himself, including BTK. In this letter, he demanded media attention. How many do I have to kill before I get a name in the paper or some national attention? A poem was enclosed entitled Oh Death to Nancy, a parody of the lyrics to the American folk song Oh Death. In the letter, he claimed to be driven to kill by Factor X, which he characterised as supernatural elements that also motivated Jack the Ripper, the Son of Sam, and the Hillside Stranglers. Maureen Hedge, aged 53, was found on May 5, 1985, at East 53rd Street North between North Webb Road and North Greenwich Road in Wichita. Rader killed her on April 27th and took her dead body to the Christ Lutheran Church, where he was the president of the church council. There he photographed her body in various bondage positions. Rader had previously stored black plastic sheets and other materials at the church in preparation for the murder, and then later dumped the body in a remote ditch. On September 16, 1986, Rader strangled 28-year-old Vicky Lynn Wergel to death with a nylon stocking in her house. Rader entered the residence by pretending to be a telephone repairman. Rader rearranged her clothes post-mortem and took a number of photographs of her nude body. Rader's final victim was 62-year-old Dolores Erline D. Davis, who was found dead on February 1st of 1991 at West 117th Street, North and North Meriden Street in Park City, Kansas. Rader had killed her on January 19th by strangling her with pantyhose. On August 23rd of 2023, the Associated Press reported that Rader had been considered the prime suspect in 2 further killings in Oklahoma and Missouri. Authorities discovered possible trophies from victims after searching for evidence at his former Kansas home, resulting in the investigation of Rader's potential involvement in additional unsolved disappearances and murders. 16-year-old Cynthia Dawn Kinney was last seen in Ostage, Oklahoma on June 23rd of 1976 at Ostage Laundromat. Witnesses said she left the laundromat at 9:30 a.m. and got into a faded beige 1965 Plymouth Belvedere. In 2023, Ostage Sheriff Eddie Verdon claimed that Rader was identified as the prime suspect after it was determined that Rader was involved with Boy Scouts in the area, and when it was learned that Rader had included the phrase Bad Wash Day in his writings. A bank was also having new ADT alarms installed across the street from the laundromat where Kinney went missing. Rader was the regional installer for ADT at the time. Furthermore, Rader allegedly claimed to have fantasies about kidnapping a girl from a laundromat. Rader had denied involvement in the murder. Sheriff Verdon had stated that he believes Rader's denial was because being tied to a murder in Oklahoma could open him up for a retrial and the death penalty. By 2004, the investigation of the BTK killer was considered a cold case. Then Rader initiated a series of 11 communications to the local media. This activity led directly to his arrest in February of 2005. In March 2004, the Wichita Eagle received a letter from someone using the name Bill Thomas Kilman. The author of the letter claimed to have murdered Vicky Wergel on September 16th of 1986 and enclosed photographs of the crime scene and a photocopy of her driver's license, which had been stolen at the time of the crime. Before this, it had not been definitively established that Wergel was killed by BTK. DNA collected from under Wergel's fingernails provided police with previously unknown evidence. They then began DNA testing hundreds of men in the effort to find the serial killer. Altogether, more than 1,300 DNA samples were taken and later destroyed by court order. In May 2004, television station KAKE in Wichita received a letter with chapter headings for the BTK story, fake IDs and a word puzzle. On June 9th, a package was found taped to the stop sign at the corner of the 1st and Kansas roads in Wichita. It had graphic descriptions of the Otero murders and a sketch labelled "The Sexual Thrill is My Bill." Also enclosed was a chapter list from a proposed book titled The BTK Story, which mimicked the story written in 1999 by Court TV crime writer David Lower. Chapter 1 was titled A Serial Killer is Born. In July, a package dropped into a return slot at a public library contained more bizarre material, including the claim that he was responsible for the death of 19-year-old Jake Allen in Aragoria, Kansas, earlier that month. The claim was false and the death was ruled a suicide. After his capture, Rader admitted in his interrogation that he had planned to kill again and he had set a date for October 2004 and was stalking his intended victim. In October 2004, a manila envelope was dropped into a UPS box in Wichita, contained with many graphic images of children and a poem threatening the life of a lead investigator, Lieutenant Ken Wanderer, and a false autobiography with many details about Rader's life. These details were later released to the public. In December of 2004, Wichita police received another package from the BTK killer. This time, the package was found in the Wichita Murdoch Park. It had the driving license of Nancy Fox, which was noted as a stolen item from the crime scene, as well as a doll that was symbolically bound at the hands and feet and had a plastic bag tied over its head. In January 2005, Rader attempted to leave a cereal box in the bed of a pickup truck at a Home Depot in Wichita, but the box was discarded by the truck's owner. It was later retrieved from the trash after Rader asked what had become of it in its later message. Surveillance tape from the parking lot from the date revealed a distant figure driving a Jeep Cherokee leaving the box in the pickup. In February of 2005, more postcards were sent to KAKE, and another cereal box left at a rural location was found to contain another bound doll. In a letter to the police, Rader asked in his writings, if put on a floppy disk, could it be traced or not? The police answered his question in a newspaper ad posted to the Wichita Eagle, saying it would be safe to use the disk. On February 16th of 2005, Rader sent a purple 1.44 megabyte Memorex floppy disk to Fox affiliate KSAS TV in Wichita. Also enclosed was a letter, a gold-coloured necklace with a large medallion, and a photocopy of the cover of Rules of Prey, a 1989 novel by John Sanford about a serial killer. Police found metadata embedded in a deleted Microsoft Word document that was unknown to Rader, still stored on the floppy disk. The metadata contained the words Christ Lutheran Church, and the document was marked as mass modified by Dennis. An internet search determined that Dennis Rader was present at the church council. When investigators drove to Rader's home, they spotted the Jeep Cherokee parked outside, the same model seen in the Home Depot surveillance footage. This was strong circumstantial evidence against Rader, but they needed more direct evidence to detain him. Police obtained a warrant to test a pap smear taken from Rader's daughter at the Kansas State University Medical Clinic. DNA tests showed a familial match between the pap smear and the sample from Wergel's fingernails. This indicated that the killer was closely related to Rader's daughter, and combined with other evidence was enough for the police to arrest Rader. Rader was arrested while driving near his home in the Park City shortly after noon on February 25th of 2005. An officer asked, "Mr. Rader, do you know why you're going downtown?" Rader replied, "Oh, I have my suspicions why." Wichita Police, the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, and ATF agents searched Rader's home and vehicle, seizing evidence including computer equipment, a pair of black pantyhose retrieved from a shed, and a cylindrical container. The church he attended, his office at City Hall, and the main branch of the Park City Library were also searched. At a press conference the next morning, Wichita Police Chief Norman Williams announced the bottom line: BTK is arrested. On February 28th of 2005, Rader was charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder. After Rader's arrest, his wife was granted an emergency divorce, waiving the normal 60-day waiting period. On March 1st, Rader's bail was set at $10 million, and a public defender was appointed to represent him. On May 3rd, the judge entered a not guilty plea on Rader's behalf, as Rader did not speak at his arraignment. However, on June 27th, the scheduled trial date, Rader changed his plea to guilty, describing the murders in detail and made no apologies. At Rader's August 18th sentencing, victims' families made statements, after which Rader apologised in a rambling 30-minute monologue that the prosecutor linked to an Academy Award acceptance speech. His statement had been described as an example of an often observed phenomenon among psychopaths, their inability to understand the emotional context of language. He was sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences with a minimum of 175 years. On August 19th, he was moved to El Dorado Corrections Facility. Massachusetts psychologist Robert Mendoza was hired by Rader's court-appointed public defenders to conduct a psychological evaluation on Rader and determined if an insanity-based defence might be viable. He conducted an interview after Rader had pled guilty on June 27th in 2005. Mendoza diagnosed Rader with narcissistic, obsessive-compulsive and antisocial personality disorders. He observed that Rader had a grandiose sense of self, a belief that he was special and therefore entitled to special treatment, a pathological need for attention and admiration, and a preoccupation with maintaining rigid order and structure, and a complete lack of empathy. This is the story of BTK Dennis Rader. This was heavy, with many victims and many being children. It's a lot to stomach, and I have hopes that the family members and those affected have found some peace and are living wonderful lives now. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and maybe leave a comment to tell me about any future cases that you might want me to cover. Subscribe so you don't miss out on any future uploads. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye for now.